Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So today's video, we're talking all about wedding design, and I've done a couple of videos on different aspects of coming up with wedding design or certain parts of your wedding theme, design, decor, all of that. But this video, I'm going to do kind of a start to finish, how to even come up with your overall wedding theme or design, and kind of how to create that vision and what to do with it once you have the vision, how to actually make that come to life. So in this video, I'm going to basically go through the process of what I do personally as a wedding planner for my clients when coming up with an overall wedding design. So this is just what I find works the best and kind of the steps that I find are most helpful to take when coming up with the overall wedding design, and then how to acquire the decor and make that vision come to life. So first off, this step can come at 1 or 2 points in the wedding planning process. Either you are going to do this right after booking a venue, so you already have the venue and the space in mind, or you'll do it before you book absolutely anything for your wedding. So this will kind of depend on kind of how you are as a person and how you are envisioning your wedding. So if you're somebody that you have an idea of what you want the setting to be like, maybe you've always envisioned yourself getting married in a field outside, or a barn wedding, or on the beach in Mexico, or whatever, so you have kind of that setting already in your mind, then you will likely be booking your venue first and then coming up with this overall design once you have the venue and space in mind. But if you are somebody that is starting from completely scratch, ground level, you have no idea what you even want for the setting of your wedding, the venue, or anything, then you will do all of this at the very beginning stages before you are booking a venue or booking anything with regards to your wedding. So the first step is to come up with a bunch of inspiration. So this is where you will be going through Pinterest, going through Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're finding inspiration and things that are speaking to you when it comes to weddings, and being able to save them so that you can go back and reference them. If you are somebody that has had a wedding Pinterest for a long time, even before you're actually in the process of planning a wedding, this is a great time to go back through it and kind of weed out things that don't speak to you any longer. I know some brides had created a wedding Pinterest board years and years ago when they first started kind of daydreaming about their wedding, and since the time of starting at that Pinterest account and the time that they're actually planning their wedding, their taste has likely changed, and things that you liked 10 years ago are probably not things that you are still wanting at your wedding today. So if that is you, make sure that you are going through your Pinterest board and deleting anything that is no longer useful, no longer speaks to you, so that your Pinterest board is everything that you really love currently that you want to emulate on your wedding day. So going through and creating Pinterest boards, saved boards on Instagram, saved albums, and anywhere that you are consuming this content, or maybe that's a physical collage and you're actually looking through actual physical wedding magazines, whatever that is for you, come up with as much inspiration, anything that speaks to you that you like, in no real rhyme or reason, is this kind of first step. Then the next step is then to take all of this inspiration, and this is when you start to kind of narrow it down and make sure that you are on one kind of similar path, stream, avenue, so that your inspiration all kind of makes sense and you can pick one lane to go in. So maybe in the initial process you were having two pretty different styles. Maybe you're liking a lot of really natural and muted tones for a lot of things, but then on the flip side you're really loving a lot of bright florals and a lot of wildflowers and kind of a different style. So go through and kind of choose from there what speaks to you the most, and kind of pick a direction to go down that's going to be one avenue. So during this process, you want to really think about what speaks to you the most and what is it about that you're liking. So is it the way that it looks in photos? Is it how you think that you look in a particular color, or what makes you happy, what your fiance might be enjoying more, what you think your guests are going to like? Whatever that reason is, figure out what it is that is speaking to you and your partner the most, and figure out what direction you want to head down when it comes to actually coming up with the concrete ideas. The goal is to be able to fit everything onto kind of one visual sheet. So whether this is a digital sheet or something you're going to print out or something you're physically making with cutouts from photos of magazines, you're going to create one document that is going to be your mood board. So this is going to pull out all of your favorite elements from all this inspiration that you found and help us come up with a color palette. So you want to pull things that speak to you the most. So your favorite images that you have seen that really drew you in, make sure that those are at the top of your list. So I'll share an example of a mood board I created for a client so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. And you want to make sure that you are pulling an image or some kind of inspiration for each category of your wedding. So make sure that you have good imagery for your florals, both ceremony and reception ideas. So however you envision your ceremony space, if that's going to be flowers on an arch or if it's going to be ground florals, if you're not going to have any and you're on a beach, and then what you envision in your reception space as far as florals go as well. Also make sure that you have dress inspiration. This is for also your wedding dress as well as any bridesmaids dresses and wedding party attire as a whole, so that you can see everything kind of pulled together on one sheet. So all attire inspiration, desserts, whether this is a one wedding cake that's going to be your main dessert, or if you plan on having some kind of dessert bar, having some image that's going to reflect that aspect of your wedding. Table settings, this plays a big role in the overall design of your wedding and where decor will kind of pull in and play a role. So table settings, your guest table setup, as well as the overall venue space. So maybe this is where you're still trying to brainstorm where you actually want to get married, so having a couple of ideas of how you envision that space to be, or an actual image from where you do plan to get married. So again, you can kind of see everything together on one sheet. Now this will also help come up with your color palette if you haven't already. So either you're pulling images based on a color palette you have in your mind that you're really liking, and then you're saving things and images that are in line with that color palette, or maybe your color palette comes from these images that you realized, okay, this is all along a similar theme. These are all the colors that are in this photo. So on that note too, if you are making a digital mood board, Canva is my go-to place to go and make this. They have templates that are already created that you can just go in and plug in the photos that you've already saved to make it super easy for you. So if you're intimidated by creating some kind of design element on the computer, they make it super easy. So just go to Canva, pull up one of their templates for a mood board, and then just plug in what you need. On Canva too, you can also pick colors using their eyedropper tool, so you can actually select colors straight out of your image. So say you have a picture of like a bridal bouquet, and all the colors in that bouquet are the colors you want to use in your color palette. You can go in and actually select the color from that photo and it'll pull it out for you, and you can create, like how on that mood board has the different color dots, you can make that round circle fill with the color from that specific photo. So you can kind of create a color palette that way. So you start with your kind of abstract inspiration that you're pulling from Pinterest or Instagram or wherever, and then you're kind of narrowing that down into one sheet that you can see everything together and see how it all pulls through. And maybe you get it all on one sheet and you're realizing, this isn't really the direction I want to go. Then just go through that process again until you get it to a point where you're loving everything that you're seeing on that piece of paper, and you feel like that is really what you want to encapsulate for your wedding day. So once you have this, then you're going to take your inspiration, this abstract inspiration, and we're going to make it concrete. So we're going to take your mood board and we're going to find actual items that you can acquire for your wedding day to achieve that. So this step, it's good to keep an open mind and be a little bit more flexible in this as well, because you are obviously pulling inspiration that you don't know where that's coming from. You don't know how they accessed whatever is in that photo. So you're not wanting to completely replicate what you're seeing in these photos. They're meant to be used as inspiration and kind of a springboard to then find what makes sense for you in your area and what you can actually achieve for your own wedding to kind of create a similar vibe and feel. So this is where I am creating what's called a design deck. So I basically take my clients' inspiration photos and I figure out what I can find locally to be able to create that, and what's going to be available locally that's going to be similar and give kind of a similar feel with what we have readily available here in our location. So depending on where you're based, where you're getting married, your options are going to be a lot different from mine, a lot different from the next person. So this will really vary depending on couple and depending on your location and how you're going to actually, what the process is going to look like for this specifically. But basically this is where you are figuring out what you are going to create yourself, if you're going to DIY anything, what you're going to purchase, and what you're going to rent to be able to create all of the decor and the items that you need for your wedding day. I also recently did a video all about how to know like what you should be purchasing versus renting. So if that's something that you're on the fence about or not really sure how to navigate, be sure to check that video out, and that might answer a lot of those questions for you. So this is the stage where you're going to see what's actually available, and maybe those decisions will be made solely on price if you're somewhere that doesn't have a whole lot of options and you're going to have to be purchasing things and have them shipped over from elsewhere and it's going to be really expensive. Maybe those are things that you just create yourself, or if you are somewhere that has a lot of great rental options and you're going to just rent everything and not have to worry about purchasing items or transporting items or whatever that might be. So there's a lot of factors that can go into this as well, but this is the stage where you figure out what is available for renting, what you plan to purchase, and what you might create yourself. And usually when I'm creating a design deck, I'll show several options for one thing. So for example, a table setting is a big part of this process. So if there is a particular type of glassware that I'm seeing a lot in the inspiration photos from my client, usually this is something that I automatically go to a rental company for, rather than purchasing, obviously not a DIY project either. So going through all my rental resources and seeing what fits closest to that, and maybe giving them a couple different options so that they have options on both the look and the appearance of that item, but also the price of the item, and if there's an extra delivery cost depending on the rental company and where they're located. So having all that information included in the design deck will also help with the decision-making process. Examples of things that I include in the design deck, like I said, table settings is the main part. So the kind of china, flatware, silverware, glassware, napkins, cloth napkins, as well as the linens that go on the table if you're going to have a full linen drape or just a runner. The types of table themselves, maybe this is coming from your venue so you only have one option, or if there are different options that you can have, whether that is a wooden farm table or if it's just going to be a folding table that you will put a linen drape over. Those are the kinds of decisions that will be happening during this process, and you can kind of visualize and put them together on the design deck so you can see your different options visually and what things are going to be priced out as well. So everything that goes on the tabletop. Signage is another big part of the design deck as well as dessert displays. So cake stands, the dessert itself, floral vessels, so whether this is going to be bud vases or if they're going to be like ground arrangements and meadow boxes, and a lot of this you'll work through with your florist as well. So this doesn't necessarily go in the design deck, but if there is a certain look you're going for, like a very specific type of vase you're trying to match with glassware or candles or tea lights or anything like that, all those items will be included in this design deck as well. So candles, anything that's going to go on any physical surface at your wedding will be included in the design deck. And then the final step is figuring out where you want to add any personal touches, any details that are going to make this uniquely your wedding. So you're pulling a lot of things from inspiration, and so you want to make sure that you're, again, not just recreating something that you've already seen, and finding ways to make it more you and to kind of tell the story of you and your partner, because after all, this is your wedding. This isn't just some pretty event that you're putting on. So you want to make sure that you're finding places to add your own personal touches and detail. Great places to do this are table numbers. I've seen people get really creative with either what they're naming their table numbers or the overall display of it, incorporating pets or childhood photos. Categorizing them as things that are really important to you guys. So maybe like movie titles or song titles or bands or places that you visited together, whatever that might be. That's a great way to add in just a little bit of a personal touch to kind of tell your story at your wedding. At the bar is another great place too. So maybe that's the menu that you are having. Drinks are named certain things that have some kind of meaning and significance to your relationship. Again, incorporating pets into this is a very common thing that I see at weddings. Cocktail napkins being personalized, having photos out around your wedding at your welcome table or at your dessert table or even on guest tables. And the dessert table itself as well is another place that you can add some personal touches and details. So for me, coming up with the overall design and kind of the process from the abstract inspiration to the actual concrete wedding day and what we came up with is one of my favorite things to be able to experience and see from start to finish. I know for some this can be a little bit overwhelming and kind of a daunting process, so if you break it down into steps, maybe hearing the way that I go through it with my clients might help you kind of break it down and feel a little less overwhelmed by this process. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.